Now, Eyewitness Sports.
All right, welcome to the latest episode of Double OT with new dad to two, Mark Dondero, unshaven, probably tired.
How many times do I have to appear like this for you to stop mentioning what my
I mean, we work at a television
is?
station and you never shave anymore.
Well, we're not on TV right now. We're on the internet. When I get on TV, I'll shave again.
What if there was like an impromptu thing you had to jump on? I think the deal with no facial hair on TV is outdated and stupid.
Sure, it's just a theory, really. But normally, if I'm anchoring, I will shave.
Sean Owen Dondero is now what, 8 days old?
8 days old, thriving at home. Mommy's doing well.
What's he up to?
You know, we have a bunch of little football pajamas and baseball pajamas, things we didn't have with our little girl, so that's nice.
Right.
But he just hangs out. We do tummy time. We do skin to skin.
That's early tummy time. Good
Yeah,
job.
he's doing well. He's almost getting to a push-up.
The picture you sent to us the night of the baby, I noticed you weren't shirtless.
No.
No tummy time at that point?
Well, we did some skin to skin later.
Skin to skin,
yeah,
rather?
we did some skin to skin later, but I wasn't going to send a shirtless picture for the evening news.
I was so nervous. Obviously, I'm not going to botch Sean, but because I said Mavy instead of
that
Mave
was my
last
fault,
time.
though. I had the incorrect phonetic spelling for you.
Have you got peed on yet?
3 times. It's different
How's
with
the stream? Pretty solid?
It's pretty good. It's strong. It's just different. That the genitals on the boy are a little different.
It's a game
dynamic.
changer
Yeah.
on the diaper change.
Correct.
All important stuff. All right, ongoing right now, just tipping off is Celtics Cavs, so we're not going to talk specific about this game, but you know, LeBron James said yesterday he doesn't talk about regular season games because he goes to the finals every year. Does the outcome of this game, win, lose, or draw for the Celtics, impact the big picture as these two vie for the 1 seed?
For the Celtics, yes, it does. This is a big game. This was a big game for the Celtics. This game matters to them. They're trying to get to Cleveland's level. And as much as we don't like what LeBron James said, and it did, kind of sound bad, he's right.
He's right.
He's been to the finals 6 times. They know what they're doing in the playoffs, and so does he. Specifically, LeBron James knows what he's doing in the playoffs. So yes, I don't think regular season games, for the most part, matter to him. He is not going to lose sleep if they lose to the Celtics without Tristan Thompson in the Garden. He's just not. He knows what's at stake. He knows the bigger picture. He is the bigger picture. So he is not going to care. For the Celtics, they haven't gotten to that big stage yet.
Right.
At least not this Celtics team. So this game for them mattered. They needed to win. They had to find a way to prove to themselves, to prove to everybody else that they're worth it. But LeBron is right. As much as we didn't want to hear him say that, he's been to the finals. He doesn't need to prove anything to anyone in the regular season. Forget it. See you at the finals.
LeBron was absolutely right in his assessment of this situation. These games just don't matter. The Cavs have a history of flipping the switch, and I think they're going to be fine come playoff time, although they've been struggling down the stretch here. And this is, the second of a back-to-back, 4 games in 5 nights, whatever, so they have kind of the built-in excuse. I agree with you in that the Celtics need this to show they belong. They can beat the Cavaliers. They've beaten them already. They've beaten Golden State a couple times over the last 2 years. But the difference about the Celtics regular season versus postseason, Mark, is I think they win a lot of games by being so consistently effort-wise good every night, whereas some teams coast through the dog days of the NBA season. So once they enter the postseason and everyone's trying their hardest and you're traveling back from Cleveland to Boston or what have you, can you bring it every night? And I think the 1 seed will ultimately help them win a game or 2 should they see Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals, but I don't think it's going to change the outcome of a possible Boston-Cleveland playoff series. But I think it's big for their psyche, their confidence going in, and obviously the 1 seed and winning tonight means more to the Celtics than the Cavaliers. But I like a feisty LeBron, and let's not forget he's had some bad games. His Cleveland career ended at the Garden with him famously ripping his jersey off. So, he's got some
Since
demons
then, though,
in
he
Boston.
has owned the Celtics at the Garden.
I think the game 6 with Miami, and was it 12 or what year
he
was that?
He has owned the Celtics at the Garden. Owned and operated. This means nothing to the Cavs and to LeBron James. They know what they're doing. They know how they need to perform once the playoffs start, and they will do that. I expect them to do that. This game means more to the Celtics,
Absolutely,
who haven't gotten to that level. Now, the Boston Bruins, they haven't been in the playoffs since the 2013-2014 season. They did clinch a playoff spot last night. They're back on, Tuesday night.
Last night, yeah.
So that's good. However, Brad Marchand, little incident there, cup checking one of the players for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Was it the Maple Leafs they were playing last night?
Lightning.
Lightning. So now what happens is we wait to see if he gets suspended. He was kicked out of the game. He was assessed a major penalty. How big of a deal would this be for the Bruins if, in fact, Marchand has to sit down?
I don't think it's a big deal in that if he gets suspended 1 game or 2, which apparently would be unprecedented for this, but he has a rap sheet, Mark, right? He has a cheap shot artist a little bit over the years, which is too bad because he's having a career year in goals. He's been so integral to this team's uptick in scoring. And then he just has these boneheaded plays like a Vontaze Burfict on the Bengals. You just lose your mind and do a cheap shot. Like, you can't do that. You're one of the team leaders. So, listen, as they're vying for whatever seed they get, 6, 7 in that area with Ottawa and Toronto, it could change the dynamic with points if he gets suspended 1 or 2 games. I don't think his suspension is going to go into the playoffs, but it's a little bit of a wet blanket on a celebratory night that they are going to the playoffs. So, just unnecessary. It's something you try not to see from a veteran impact player like that. So I think it can impact seeding a little bit, but I don't think it impacts their playoff scenario.
It's not a huge deal. It's an annoyance. This is Brad Marchand's game. He's feisty. If you want to use the word dirty, I'm okay with that. He's a pest. He's an irritant. That's his game. And that's how he needs to be to perform at the level that we're used to seeing him perform. Get that coffee. I'm getting my shot. Anyway, he has how many goals this year? 39, pushing 40. An unbelievable year, career year. He was in the discussion for the Hart Trophy. Now, maybe not after last night and those antics, but this is who he is. So I'm not going to get on him too bad. This is who he is. This is what he is. This is how he needs to be to perform at the level we're used to seeing him at least over the course of the last 2 years.
It's part of his DNA to make him a good player.
It was boneheaded. Chicken bleep. You can't do it. Especially at this juncture of the season. I mean, we saw him a few years ago. I forget if he actually got suspended, but remember, they were going to play in the Winter Classic.
Right.
Had to sit down for the Winter Classic.
Yes. 2 years
Don't want to do that. So, yeah, bad timing, bad decision. Now, I don't did he think he was going to hit him right in the wahoos? I don't know. But, maybe he thought he hit him in the stomach. It wouldn't be as bad. Got maybe a little bit of bad luck there, but a bad decision nonetheless.
Maybe an on the ground and elbow, but the stick?
The stick. Whew. I mean, I don't know if he thought he would hit him right square there, but it doesn't matter. It was a bad decision.
It's not one of those things when you're in rec league and, did anyone see that? There's 35 cameras in the arena.
Bad decision, and you have to know your team needs you. I will say this, though. Bruce Cassidy got the job done. He got the job done. He got them to the playoffs, the Bruins. But now, Bruce Cassidy will once again be tested. And unfortunately, my comment here is more of a macro kind of situation than micro, and it won't really do much good for them now, but he'll be tested once again because if he wants to continue to get the best out of Brad Marchand, he has to find a way to keep him at the level that he's on where he can score all these goals, but you can't have these boneheaded plays. You can't have these cheap shots that lead to suspensions, and that's on the coach. Bruce Cassidy eventually will have to address this. Maybe too late now this season. You just hope you can not lose all your momentum with your best player on the bench if he in fact is suspended. You can try to keep it together for the last 2 games or whatever it is, and then just forget about it and go into the playoffs.
And they're streaky. Would they win 5 in a row, lost 4 in a row, won 6 in a row?
Yeah,
so they're
been
pretty streaky.
And I will give Tuukka Rask credit. He played in the game where they could clinch.
You called for his job a couple weeks ago,
but I was wrong.
We both were right in that we weren't overreacting to the losing streak. I think we both had them going to the playoffs.
He was in the game. He played in the game. He came through. It was a shutout.
Yeah.
It was a great performance.
I think he's second in the league in shutouts
So
right
I
now.
give Tuukka Rask credit. Kudos to the Bruins. We'll get playoff hockey finally.
All right. You and I haven't talked Red Sox season preview. Obviously, Game 2 already with Chris Sale going tonight. What are your big picture Red Sox predictions for the upcoming year?
They'll go to the playoffs. They have to go to the playoffs. This
they
would
win
be
the division?
Ultimate disappointment if they do not go to the playoffs. Yes, they will win the division.
All right, I agree.
Everything they did last year has to be superseded. That's the expectation.
Well, they need to win a game in the division
That's
series.
Right. Well, they have to win the division again. They have to go to the playoffs, which would obviously happen. And yes, you have to win a game. You have to win a series. I mean, the expectations, you have to win a series. You have to. Or else you didn't live up to expectations. Now, Cleveland is really good. Cleveland, I think, is better than the Cubs. I like Cleveland better this year than the Cubs. But if we're sticking with the Red Sox, I like the Yankees. I think they're going to be a pest. I don't think they're going to win the division.
That's 2 pest mentions.
I think they're going to be good.
Sanchez?
Yeah,
I mean,
Bird is a good player.
Sabathia actually pitched well last night.
Yeah, and they got Aroldis Chapman, so their bullpen, assuming he can stay true to form. So they have some guys, and the AL East has been good. Yeah, I don't know much about Tampa this year. The Baltimore Orioles have been good, and Toronto has been good. But I still think the Red Sox, with Chris Sale, despite Ortiz being gone, should get in the playoffs and make the playoffs and get to the ALCS at least.
I think their lineup is deep enough that the departure of Ortiz doesn't hurt them as much. We
Hanley
saw
Ramirez is key.
Benintendi with some pop. If Hanley can hit, and if you're going to get anything out of Pablo Sandoval, because you didn't get anything last year, I think you're going to be okay. Betts is the runner-up in MVP. I mean, your lineup is pretty deep, and Sale has impressed me so far.
Yes.
Porcello was solid first game. If we can just shelve Price till he's completely right, not have him rush back. I mean, last year, Stephen Wright was an all-star, and then Eddie Rodriguez coming off injury. He should be good. So there's no reason to say they can't make the playoffs. I have them winning the division. I have them losing to the Cubs in the World Series, although I think Cleveland's probably a better team. I think Benintendi's going to have a good year, and if Moreland gives you anything, you're doing well. I don't know about the bullpen right now. There's kind of some uncertain roles on the back end of that bullpen. I like knowing who my eighth inning guy is, but it's game 2, so we can work that out.
Yeah, the eighth inning guy, we'll figure it out.
Joe Kelly,
there's been some guys that have been injured, so they got to get those guys back into the mix. But Craig Kimbrell, you know what you're going to get with him. It's sometimes adventurous. Don't
Doesn't
bring
like
him in when it's not a
inheriting
safe
runners.
situation.
That's pathetic, right?
I don't like that. But yeah, I expect a lot out of this team, and you expect guys. Forget about Betts, Bradley, and Bogarts. Benintendi, who you have high hopes for, looks like a stud.
Great hair too.
So we'll see if he can hit the home run, the 3-run shot on opening day. Huge. Looks the part. Produced in the playoffs last year. This kid is strong. So we'll see if he can come through. And yes, I have high expectations for this team. Okay. So Benintendi, a young, up-and-coming star, and it's hard to believe that Rob Gronkowski, more of a seasoned vet these days.
Put my coffee down.
But put the coffee down. But he's still young at heart, as we can see with various things that he does. Witness, what was he? WWE,
WrestleMania,
and then he's stealing Tom Brady's jersey pregame.
Yeah.
The question here is: are Gronk's antics a big deal, Jan?
No, because I think Gronk is who he is. He's a fun-loving, big kid. He's genuinely always having a good time. He's a frat guy. He's a kid. I mean, use whatever you want. I mean, he grew up with, 4 brothers? Those guys were playing hockey in their basement, pounding their heads against each other till they were like 15 years old. So I don't think it's a distraction. He's not staying up all night at the club, getting drunk, getting DUIs, doing anything bad maliciously. But I do think it's interesting that he kind of has his own set of rules right now with the Patriots, because if that was anyone else coming off of back surgery, listen, wrestling's fake. He pushed a guy hard. It was more theatrics than anything else, but it's not really a good look coming off back surgery to be in WrestleMania, regardless of what you're doing. Now, the thing on opening day was more lighthearted, and owner Robert Kraft was there. That was kind of Gronk being Gronk. But,
that doesn't even count as an antic
he does, the party cruises with his name on it. I can't imagine Belichick loves it, but he kind of tolerates it right now. And I'm okay with Belichick treating Gronk differently than the other 52 guys on his roster.
All right, I'm going to say 2 things about Rob Gronkowski, both relating to this. Number 1, as far as the antics go, I think that part of this, and I could be wrong, but I think that part of this is because Rob Gronkowski, maybe the best tight end ever, is pretty woefully underpaid by the New England Patriots in comparison to other people, other players at his position. Pretty underpaid. He knows it. He's tweeted about it, alluding to it.
Yeah, he has.
So I think part of this is Gronk saying, hey, if you're going to pay me what you pay me, I'm going to do what I want. And that leads to the second part.
Make some money on the side.
Make some money on the side, appear here, appear there, help the brand, do what I want, have some fun, because I produce, I can produce, what I can do, how committed I am, and I want to do this, and this is what you pay me? Not even market value. I mean, he's
below market value.
He's not even paid as well as
they extended him
Travis Kelce makes more
early in his career. So
the second point is what I just alluded to. They know how committed he is. He knows how committed he is. You heard him at the parade. I genuinely feel like he was just devastated missing out on that Super Bowl run. He's committed. He eats right. He treats his body well. I know it looks maybe a little different at times, but for the most part, everything we heard, he treats his body well. He trains hard. He trains the right way. He's always ready to play. His mind is right when he's in the building working. He knows what he is capable of as far as being a professional, so he's not worried about, this person going to criticize me for being at WrestleMania. He knows what he needs to do and does it.
And Belichick will say that no one works harder than Gronk. He says that about everyone, but he'll say no one works harder than Gronk or studies. He's a student of the game. And Gronk's one of those guys who, like a buddy in college, who stays up till 4 a.m. and goes to his 8 a.m. class and gets 100 on the test. That's Gronk. I think he can successfully party.
But the difference is he's also studying. I mean, he would also be studying for that test.
But, I think he can coexist with his personality and still be the best tight end in the game. And
he has his head in the right place.
Yeah.
He does have the antics, but he has his head in the right spot.
He's something else. All right, Patriots offseason ongoing. The draft coming up in a couple weeks. Some names floated out there. Adrian Peterson, which was controversial because of his child abuse story. And then Richard Sherman, the cornerback all-pro at Seattle, they're shopping him. Their GM said as much on radio today, and the Pats reportedly would be interested if Malcolm Butler leaves. What do you make of either or both of these as potential Pats signings?
I have nothing to say about Adrian Peterson. I don't want him. I don't think they should want him. I don't think they need him. I don't like older running backs. I know they've had some success with older guys in the past, Corey Dillon. I don't care about Adrian Peterson, especially after you said Joe Mixon was not even on your draft board, the running back from Oklahoma who slugged a woman. This guy hit his kids. I don't know if there was a gray area to it or whatever. He hit his kids. I don't want him. I don't need him. He's older. His numbers have declined. I don't need him. If they want to go running back, give me some guy from the draft. Give me a young guy. Remember a few years ago, if they don't want to draft a guy high, remember Boston College had Andre Williams. He ended up getting drafted by the Giants, led the NCAA in rushing. Get a guy like that if you want to get a running back. Or draft one high. Draft one. Draft a young one with young legs if you're going to go running back. The other thing with Richard Sherman, it appears that Bill has this new affection for long, tall corners.
Yeah.
Gilmore, tall. He's not really doing a dance with Malcolm Butler, really. He's a shorter guy. Now Sherman, we're hearing about the Patriots maybe being interested in Sherman. He's tall. He's 6'3". I would love to see Sherman here just because of the media. I want to see, does he clam up like everybody else? Does he adhere to the procedure and the policies of the New England Patriots?
Martellus
I'm assuming he would. It'd be fun to cover him. I like that guy in the locker room. I would love to see him, to talk to him. He's a really good player. Now, is he my favorite corner? No. I think he has trouble with those smaller guys, the Edelmans. We saw it in Super Bowl 49. But I would have him on this team, especially in the event you lose Malcolm Butler. So I'd be for Sherman. I have no use for Adrian Peterson.
No use for Adrian Peterson for everything you mentioned. He hit his kid with a switch, in his legs and genital region. I mean, Jonathan Kraft is on record saying that he couldn't comprehend that player or that situation. So, listen, Bill Belichick has always kind of sideswiped people's past and giving them a fair shot on a second chance here in terms of football. But like you said, he's over the hill. He's 2 years removed from his last quality season. And can we just re-sign LeGarrette Blount? He's solid in the goal line. When you're first and goal within the 5, he's going to punch it in. Listen, is he great between the 20s? He'll burst like a 40-yard run every so often. No, I mean, in the Super Bowl, he was dreadful. He couldn't get anything going.
Both Super Bowls, he's been dreadful. 49 and 51.
I agree. You dump it off to Deion Lewis and you dump it off to James White, and that's kind of your de facto running game. So it's just bring Blount back, draft someone, but we don't need Peterson. As for Sherman, if Butler's gone, I'm all in on the stocking up on the corners with Gilmore. Give me Sherman, solid player, all pro. Why not? They have the money. They're still under the cap. Let's do it. And it's funny the guys that Belichick, kind of likes around the league. And I know Sherman was one of those. Did you know? Was Sherman a guy
I did not know that he liked had a thing for him.
He loved Ed Reed and Chad Ochocinco.
Well, they don't play Seattle that often, so he
I think it's a guy he respects.
Yeah, he hasn't had many opportunities to fawn.
I don't think it happens. Neither of these guys. But interesting to think about.
Okay, so Tony Romo. This guy, I thought he was going to continue playing football. No, he's going to retire and get hired. Has he already been hired? He was hired by CBS to become a TV analyst, a network analyst.
Number one job.
That's right. Are you surprised, though, that Romo left football for the broadcast booth?
I am. I thought he'd go to Denver or Houston, 2 teams playoff ready, should they add the right quarterback piece. And in some respects, Jerry Jones waiting on this kind of screwed Romo a bit, because if he was available at the start of free agency, maybe this turns out differently. Surprised that he goes right to the number one booth with Jim Nantz because he has 0 TV reps. Typically, these guys coming out of the playing field, like a Troy Aikman, a Boomer Esiason, start out on the second or third team.
Troy Aikman, didn't he start out at NFL Europe doing games?
I don't know.
I think he did.
But like, he wasn't with Joe Buck from the get-go.
Yeah.
CBS should have started him on a low rung, have him work it out for a couple years, and then send Sims off into the sunset. Listen, Phil Simms gets a lot of grief on social media, and sometimes rightfully so. But to kick him to the curb to bring in someone who's never done TV before, and this is the best game, the Thursday night package for half of them, and then the Sunday afternoon window, like Patriots versus whoever that day. So I'm surprised CBS gave him the job. I'm surprised he's giving up football. And some people are saying he has an out. If someone gets hurt, he can back out of it. CBS isn't giving him this deal as the number one guy if he's bouncing midway through the season.
Or midway through a game.
So he has to be committed to them. They have to be committed to him. And I was just surprised by it all around. I also will say this. I think Tony Romo's a good quarterback, but incredibly overrated. He's won 2 playoff games in his entire career, but because he's the quarterback of America's team, he's in the spotlight. But this talk of a future Hall of Famer is completely bogus. Nice player, but 2 playoff wins?
Nice player. I agree with everything you said about the broadcasting situation and being in the number one spot for the color.
Do you think he'll be good?
I don't think necessarily he'll be bad. I'm trying to think back to some of his interviews. He doesn't strike me as all that much of a personality.
Right.
But apparently he knows a lot. He played quarterback in the NFL.
He's a nice guy. Is he funny? Is he witty?
I don't know. We'll find out. I was never a big Phil Simms fan, so we'll see. I'm not losing sleep over that loss. But Tony Romo, I was shocked that he put football aside. And I'm saying put it aside, that he gave it up, that he walked away. I was shocked. Because it felt like the way he went out, there just felt like there was stuff still on the table for him.
Yeah, sure.
The Texans, the Broncos, a Super Bowl. He's still, and then you look at Tom Brady, the way he's playing. This guy's, 36?
Younger than Brady.
It felt like there was still something there for him from a football perspective. And the Texans, especially, they get rid of Brock Osweiler. They're waiting for you. They got the defense. They got a good coach, some structure, Texas. And you walk away to the broadcast booth. I was shocked. I'm not saying it was a bad move.
Felt like he gave up a little early.
I was just shocked. I'm not even going to say that. I was just shocked. I did not think, based on everything that I've seen from athletes, more of them seem to want to hold on and never let it go. And I thought with him, the way Dak just replaced him, and he was washed up.
Yeah.
However, I do remember that speech he gave when they decided that they were going to go with Dak full time. It was like a retirement speech, even though he was just becoming the backup, and we were all kind of like, what was that? But I am shocked, based on everything I know about pro athletes, they never want to let it go. You have to rip them and drag them off the field.
And why not give himself an out clause? Do CBS the following year. Wait till someone's star quarterback goes down with a torn ACL in week 3 and then just jump in. Let's say Derek Carr gets injured week 2 and Oakland is quarterback ready.
I will say this. Good for Tony Romo because he loves golf. He's tried to qualify for the U.S. Open in the past. And if CBS is going to let him be a part of Masters coverage or golf coverage, if he can pick and choose, or the majors, whatever, or maybe just the Masters, but good for him if he wants to cash in on that. Now, I could care less, or I couldn't care less what Tony Romo has to say about golf. Do not care. But good for him if they're going to let him walk around at the Masters and play a practice round with Jordan Spieth. Kudos.
Speaking of Jordan Spieth, speaking of golf, the Masters begins tomorrow at Augusta. A lot of rain this week. Big news tonight, Dustin Johnson slipped and fell. We don't know his availability. He was my pick to win the Masters. Yeah. I've now changed that because of that news. Who is your pick to take home the green jacket?
Unbelievable news on Dustin Johnson. I mean, you slipped and fell on the stairs. Don't slip and fall on the stairs the night before the Masters.
And who's to say that's
just
what
don't
happened?
do it. I don't think it is. I don't think that's what necessarily happened. There's probably some kind of. Just don't do it. It's so. Whatever. My pick is Jordan Spieth. He was my pick before Johnson even fell. The guy putts. The guy's angry. I think he's going to have a good Masters. I wish Rory McIlroy would win. I'd love to see him get the career Grand Slam. Here's who I want to win the Masters. Okay.
Sounds like Rory.
Here's who I want to win. Somebody whose name I know. I do not want Trevor Immelman to win. I don't want some no-name to win. Danny Willett. I don't want him to win. I want a big-name guy to win, somebody that already has buzz with them, or a young guy that I've never seen before. I've never heard of, a 23 or under. So
What about,
I'd be okay with that.
Who was the guy at the CVS this past year?
Bryson DeChambeau. Who was in contention for a minute last year. I would want to see one of those guys win, one of those sub-23-year-olds, if I've never heard of his name. Don't give me a 36-year-old guy I've never heard of or barely heard of or is not in contention.
Right. Oh, it's the worst.
If you want to throw a Phil or like a Lee Westwood at me and tell me they won,
I'll do Phil.
I mean, that's a nice story, and they're big names, so I would take that. But ideally, I'd like to see a guy with multiple majors win, a guy I know, and then, other than that, a young guy who has yet to jump on the scene.
I'm also going with Jordan Spieth, which isn't original.
Yeah.
But after he blew it last year at the Masters, I think that's probably a letdown that's maybe fueled him all off-season long, thinking about this date. You know, golf season has already started, but he's a player of a stature who thinks about majors. Like, Tiger got to the point he only thought about majors. So he would win it for the second time in 3 years, should he win. And I think you're right, his game translates well. I would like a Phil to be in contention. Give me two guys in the final group on Sunday, so when we're sitting there and watching it, it's interesting. I don't want some rando leading by 6 strokes.
Someone you've barely ever heard of.
And let's get the weather. I hate when the second round turns into the third round and they're starting there. Oh, it's the worst.
The weather looks fine. The weather at the par 3 contest wasn't good, but for the windy. But as far as stoppages, I don't think we'll deal with that.
And I would have loved to see Tiger have played in this. Even
Obviously.
if it was him not making the cut and complaining and making up a fake back injury.
That would have been fine.
Because, we got no Arnie now. You made a good point earlier in the office. Tiger should just retire and play the Masters with no pressure.
Where everyone just applauds him being there. Hey, there's the legend Tiger. Now, I don't know what the exact parameters are. Do you have to play on the Champions Tour to do that?
Yeah,
I think if Tiger Woods retired and wanted to still use his exemption to play in the Masters, I don't think they're going to be like, you know what, Tiger, we're good.
Yeah.
They'd let him play. You have no pressure. You could just, play. And if you ended up in contention, oh, great. Look at who's in contention.
But he hasn't won once since, what did I just say,
2005, when he had that masterful chip in on 16th on Sunday.
And Vern Lundquist with the call.
That's right.
All right, Steve Pascal is telling me they're running out of record time, so that's conveniently our last topic. That'll do it for this episode of Double OT. Thank you for those listening on iTunes and watching on WPRI.com. We will see you next time.